Hey Wendy, wanted to take maybe about 10 minutes probably to talk to you about the marketing assistant job description that you put together. First of all, pretty good, very solid. Mid B range is nothing to be embarrassed about when you've probably not ever really done one of these things before. You got most of the key pieces on there, and I just wanted to kind of talk through what you could do to improve it, to enhance it. First of all, before you go much farther, you probably want to pause this and get the two files off of the grading feedback place that I left for you. One of them is the document that actually has the job description. And let me tell you, first of all, whatever job description you created on a computer, delete it. And then take this one and save it instead of that one. Anything that we do to this job description from this point forward, I want you to do to the one that I sent you back or attached to that feedback sheet, because I've done some formatting changes on it. I've changed a little bit of wording here and there. I've added some sentences. And if you send me back something other than what I've attached to that assignment Dropbox, I'm not going to have the most current version of it. So use that one instead. You're also going to want to print out the PDF file, because that is the I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. I'm getting sidetracked because my son is talking to me through the door behind me. Uh, the PDF file is your copy of the job description with my notes and scribblings on it. And as I talk about this thing, being able to look at it will make a whole lot more sense. That said, let's get into the job description. Remember that the job description is intended to help you as HR understand what it is that a particular job does so that you can hire the right person, but it also helps the candidate to know what to expect from that job and whether he or she is qualified for it. So the things that I've asked you to put on there may not be typical of the job descriptions that you'll see in your organization in terms of the job context, but I wanted you to think through all that to be able to anticipate what a candidate is going to want to know about your job. First of all, the top of the page, the job summary. You did pretty well with that. There's one misspelled word in there, and there's a little bit of parallel problems that I want to talk to you about. Again, as a reminder, the job summary is designed to take the essential functions and boil it down to a couple of sentences. What are the main things in theory about this particular job? What does a marketing assistant do at your company? In broad terms, they look at creating sales and communicating inventory and generating interest in the community. Those are broad things. The essential functions look at those broad things and put down specific action things that they're going to do. So again, the summary is just that. It's an executive summary in just 3 sentences. A candidate could read that and say, do I want to keep reading or do I want to go on to the next one? So you've done a pretty good job there of summarizing the main things of a marketing assistant. You probably meant implementation on that second line there. And then when I'm looking at the two little things, drive and generate, where I've circled something, you want to make that parallel. You've said increasing brand awareness, so you want to say driving and generating rather than drive and generate. Those couple of changes would make that really strong as a job summary. But even though you're awfully close where it is, I want you to step out of yourself, so to speak, for this and for a number of other things on this job description, and read it from the perspective of the candidate. You know about this job, but put yourselves in the position of them who don't know much about this job. If you are looking at this for the very first time, does that job summary tell you as the candidate everything that you as the HR person wants you, the candidate, to know? Do you think that you would know enough about this job to be able to make a decision to interview for it? If you think you need to add a little bit, fine, add a little bit to it. There's nothing wrong with that. We've still got a little bit of time to play. In the essential functions, you want to take the main ideas of that job summary and put out specific bullet points. Now you'll notice on the job document that I sent back to you, I've added a couple of phrases at the top that talks about reasonable accommodations that we're willing to make. And then I tried to make them a little bit more parallel: assist, help, serve, help, provide. Notice that I lined through upload material to the website. And that's because while a lot of times marketing assistants would probably do that kind of thing, in our job at Amerima, we are advertising for a social media coordinator. And I'm thinking that that social media coordinator is probably going to be responsible for this thing that you've put on this job description. So I'd say eliminate that so there's no duplication with the other job. And again, as you look through the essential functions, think about this from the manager's point of view. Is there anything else that you're going to want this marketing assistant to do? Let's go ahead and add it in now. Under the job context, each one of those sections represents the answer to a question that your candidate might have before they take this job. The supervision received answers the question, who do I report to? If I were looking at an organizational chart, I can find my title, marketing assistant, in a box somewhere on that chart. Who's right above it? Who do I report to? Who do I go to ask for permission for vacation or to get job supply requisitions, things like that. And you've done a pretty good job of saying that it's going to be the marketing manager. And that you said that he or she will be on hand. You might clarify that, not just on hand, but who will be located in the same building down the hall. So I know, without even learning more about the job, that my boss is just 2 doors down the hall. He or she is not in a different building somewhere in another city. In the event that that marketing manager is going to be having to do some traveling, you've already addressed the fact at the end there that that person will be available. So one little tweak I think would make this a real strong supervision received statement. Available guidelines, you're a little bit off the mark, and that's probably because you used the example that I gave you. Even though in the instructional video I said that that's one of the weak points of that particular job description. This is not what that is intended to do. As a new employee in marketing, as a marketing assistant, I don't want to have to go ask my boss every time I have a question. That gets embarrassing, and eventually the boss says, why do you keep bugging me? Don't you know any of this? So the available guidelines represents the other resources that I could go to find those answers. And typically when somebody starts, we say, here's your office, here's your cubicle. On this shelf, we're going to have all of these binders. Here's a binder for our policies and procedures. Here's a binder for our employee handbook. Here's our binder for our reference manual. You may have a website with your company, an intranet, where you can go and search on different things. It's going to take you a while to learn the products and whatnot. So there's some resource that you have where you can look up details or specifications about that product. Available guidelines is where you put that kind of stuff. And basically what it says is, in the event that you need to find information about our products or our processes, or how to answer a question for a customer, these kinds of resources are available for you. We have an employee handbook, we have a policies and procedures manual, and all those different kinds of things. That's a pretty strong available guideline. So take that paragraph that you've got and rework it with that in mind. What are the resources that we have, both printed, online, people that are experts, any of those kinds of things, where this person could go if they don't want to bug their manager. All right. C, accountability, consequence of error. Looking at the essential functions, think about from a new employee's perspective. I want to do well, but I'm worried because I'm learning. I might make mistakes when I'm learning. Give me an idea of the kinds of mistakes that will create problems. What are the things that I really have to focus on getting right? And it may be that these things in a couple of sentences represent the things that we really need to hold you accountable for that we do well. Interacting with the community may be one of those things that we have to have an accountability built in for, because if we don't do that well, problems occur. So what are the things that we need to be held accountable for? Our attitude, I don't know, our interaction with the community, our attention to detail, whatever. And then not only what are the things that I need to focus on as I'm learning and getting good at my job, but also what happens if they go wrong? If I give bad information to a customer, if my job is to put together a sales flyer and I've got the wrong products or the wrong prices, what's the consequences of that? We're going to lose money. If we've underpriced our products, we're going to sell a lot of stuff because we've got to honor what's in print. So we could potentially, one of the consequences of making an error related to that kind of thing is that we could lose a lot of money, and that could hurt us in terms of bonuses and raises and things like that, promotions. Some things have financial consequences. Other things have disciplinary consequences. If I have a bad attitude consistently, then there's going to be some sort of a reprimand or perhaps even a termination. I want you to put a little more thought into that, and not just adhering to companies' regulations, but because that is important, but some specifics about what could happen. Letter D, personal contacts. Am I going to be doing this job sitting in my cubicle without ever really interacting with people, or am I going to interact with people on a regular basis? You've indicated the marketing manager daily, the marketing department at other branches weekly, but are you ever going to talk to other people or vendors? Will you talk with printers to print up documents? Will you talk with vendors to find out what costs are going to be? Will you talk to people in other departments like accounting or purchasing or the warehouse? What are all the different things? Will you ever talk with customers? In most jobs, you're going to interact with more than just two people or two groups of people. There'll be a wide range of things. Some are inside the organization, some are outside the organization. List all of those things, including the others, not just in terms of who they are, but maybe why you would interact with them and how frequently you would interact with them. You're going to have meetings. You're going to have all kinds of those kinds of things. All right. Supervision exercised obviously is, do I ever get to boss anybody else around? And the answer to most of these jobs is no. As an assistant, you probably wouldn't. You've already indicated they won't have any, but I would refrain from using the word whatsoever, because we might eventually at times put you into a team to accomplish something and make you the leader of that team, in which case you would have some supervisory um, exercises. You also may, at some point in time, be asked to mentor a new employee. So in a sense, you're kind of supervising their learning curve. Keep those kinds of things in mind. Normally speaking, in this role, you won't, but under certain circumstances, you might. And in those circumstances may be that you're appointed the leader of a team, or you're mentoring a new employee, or you're a subject matter expert who's helping us develop products or something like that. So leave it a little bit more flexible than whatsoever. Physical demands, what is this going to take out of me, drain me by the end of the day? Are there emotional components that are just going to be taxing intellectually? Most of the time we would talk about things like, do you have to lift boxes and carry things, or walk a lot, or stare at your computer for long periods of time? Do you potentially have people who are yelling at you or stressing you out, those kinds of things? The travel to ongoing is really more of a personal demand than a physical demand, because it's not very physically demanding to have to travel, but it takes away from other things, which is a personal demand. So a little bit more on the physical demands, focus it in on the things that could cause you to be tired at the end of the day. Work hazards, obviously we got to adhere to OSHA, but you generally want to say, normally speaking, this job doesn't have any strong work hazards, although there may be at times minor hazards. Like you could be stressed out if it's a busy week and you go home just exhausted every day. That's a little bit of a hazard. If parts of the job could cause stress and ulcers and things, that might be a hazard. If there's loud noises, if this were a warehouse job, for example, forklifts can be very loud. Trucks backing up can be very loud. What are the hazards? It's great to say that our conditions are safe. We take care of our people. We worry about their health. But there are some degree of hazards, even if they're minimal. So we don't want to create this as a utopia perfect kind of a thing. There are some problems with this job. Let's be upfront with some of the little ones. Personal demands. How's this job going to impact my family life, my ability to get out and relax and recuperate? I would eliminate that whole paragraph there, because I don't really talk about the personal thing. What we really want to answer, the answers we want as employees are, do I have to work overtime? That's going to cut into my family life. Do I have to work holidays? Do I have to work weekends? Am I expected to take work home? Am I expected to be on call 24 hours a day? That kind of thing. Do I have to travel? Is it overnight travel? Is it day travel? An hour out, half an hour back? Whatever. Am I going to use my own car? Am I going to have transportation? All those things affect us personally. So that's what you want to focus on in that. Under your knowledge, skills, abilities, other characteristics, go back to your essential functions and say, what do I have to know to be able to do these things? I've got to know the basic principles of marketing. I've got to know how to find resources and outlets in the media to advertise and things like that. What skills do I need? I need to be able to design a sales flyer. What abilities? I need the ability to communicate well so that people understand the message. Those are the kinds of things. And a lot of what you've got falls in with that. See if there's anything else that you can come up with. Then the minimum qualifications, at least an associate's degree in marketing, business, or related field. You might say, or the equivalent, because you, for example, don't have an associate's degree, but you do have the equivalent of one because you've done core and you've taken a few of your major classes. So probably say, or the equivalent. But think about whether this is a position that has to have some training or that you could train on the job. Could a high school diploma or a GED get this person in the door to where you could train them? It might be that the high school diploma is required and the associate's degree is preferred, but that's your call to make. If you want to go with the degree, that's fine. Experience, no prior experience necessary on the job training is fine. In some cases, folks would say, 3 to 6 months of this kind of experience, but again, this is up to you, whatever you want to do with it. Only other thing is that I've added one little section down there, and I forget what it is, but I wanted to make them standard across these job descriptions, and the closing tagline about equal opportunity, whatnot. The summary here is that you've done pretty good. You've put a lot of thought into this. We could grow it a little bit, and I'd like for you to make some changes to this thing and then email me the updated document, hopefully by Thursday late afternoon, early evening or something, so that I can get them loaded to our website on Friday. It's time for us to release these things to our communication students so that they can start making appointments for your interviews. If you have questions, please give me a call or send me an email so that we can talk about it a little bit further. But beyond that, I think you've got maybe hopefully an understanding of the few places where you could make some improvements to this to where it's a very, very strong job description. Good job on it.